was struck by the team, by Kate and all the people that came up from that organization, how dedicated they were to watching over these kids, making sure that everything went smoothly, that they were entertained and cared for. And they obviously cared for these kids, which I thought was extremely meaningful to me.
This was the largest number of children that they've brought to any video shoot. The largest number of volunteers of any of the video shoots. And that's from little old Culpeper Presbyterian Church. And it was so wonderful, particularly for Kate Ashby, because she grew up in this church. She knew the love that could be tapped, and it was done. I was struck by the outpouring of love that our congregation showed, and that was not just a quantity thing, because yes, there were a lot of volunteers that signed up, but it was also the quality of interaction.
My second child was a child with autism, and she was very task-driven, so that when she was focused on something, it was very difficult to distract her and move her away from that task. And when we eventually got her to the memorial garden, the running water in the little fountain where it runs down kind of the wall brought her literally, physically to her knees. In the garden, she experienced all the different sensory events going on in there, from the pebbles to the flowers to the water rushing over her. And it became almost a worship time for her. She was facing that. She was, in her opinion, I think, entirely alone. She had her hands in the water. She very carefully chose which pebbles, and she placed them very specifically. She did the same with flowers, which she picked off the plants. But anyway, and it was like watching a holy moment. It was like watching her be bathed in the water in that setting. And I think all of us, the photographer and the two ladies that came with her and I, we were standing there. Actually, both photographers went with us, and she was in her own world.
Wow. And
we all just stopped and let her be, because it really was kind of an amazing visual.
the piano just sitting there. I mean, she never had piano lessons, but it was just so neat watching her with Bill start playing. And then the climbing wall, they opened up that was a wonderful addition, because it was another opportunity to watch these kids just literally, because they're little shy beings, this young lady climbed all the way to the top of the wall, you know, and it was just so neat to watch that.
During the day, we had a total of 3 therapy dogs. And I remember seeing the children interacting with the first one. I think Gay Wallace brought that one. And they literally were, I mean, this was the most docile, wonderful, big, hairy dog, and these kids are crawling over that dog, and you could just know that they were experiencing something probably for the first time. You know, a dog's love was probably not what they thought they were seeking, but it might have been the first chance that they had actually experienced love, period. And it was heartwarming to see that.
They didn't stay very long because I was leaving. I was going down by the theater, and this car pulls up, and I heard this voice, "Hello," and it's her and him. You just want to say goodbye.
Don't take things for granted. A lot of us grew up in a home with a family, with brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles. We always had a home to come home to, and that kind of atmosphere. And we just can't take that for granted. That there are so many children out there that don't have that for whatever reason. And this project is definitely helping these children get the home they need.
These children have not had the easy, carefree life surrounded by loving family that children should have. I don't know their individual journeys, but I know that some, perhaps all of them, are sad to the point of heartbreaking. I am humbled when I think of the simple, love-filled lives that my grandchildren and great-grandchildren lead.
We had a moment when Gary's young man left right before mine, and then we realized that both the boys were gone, and we just looked at each other and both lost it. For appreciation for the day that they were able to have, for hope that they can find a family, and for appreciation for what our families had and don't even know that they had. But it was just like overwhelming for us, and we were so grateful that we had the day with them.
You realize how blessed your family is.
So I pray with all my might that the pictures and videos made that day will lead to the adoption of some or all of these children by loving families who will nurture, love, and support them for the rest of their lives.
What I found most interesting, I think, about the whole project was that the year that she's been working with it, Kate has been working with it, that it has increased the adoptions by 50%, this program alone. I just think that gives me chills when I say it, when I think about it, that it's helping that many. It's kind of like what Jesus would do. He would want all of us to take care of what you do for the least of these, you do for me.
And also to not look at a child on the street and see that they have new jeans or new shoes or something like that and think, well, they're just fine. But we haven't walked in their shoes. What they go through and what they have survived already is sometimes more than we could ever imagine having to deal with. And to look at every young child that we might encounter as a work in progress and somebody who's deserving, because they are each and every one of them God's children, and to look at them as deserving of support and love and nurturing from any of us.
And for members of our congregation, I would urge you that if we do this again in the future, that you volunteer to help and experience the joy of this project.
And I think if you look at the variety of ways different people participated, I mean, earlier somebody said, well, I was just in the kitchen, but just in the kitchen, they provided a hot meal for everybody who was involved in the program.
With a smile.
With a smile. And then the names on the cookies. The kids thought that was like a miracle. Like, oh, who knew I was coming? And they just were, thrilled with that. And Ketsi, with her beautiful ways with the different artwork, and they just took to her like glue, and she had such a beautiful way of speaking with them and of sitting with them and nurturing them. The dogs, they were laying on the dogs, lying on the dogs like a blanket, and the dogs had that unconditional love, and the happiness that we've already spoken of was palpable, and then the climbing wall opening for us, and the garden. There's just and people just, who would have thought Bill Watson would have bonded with a teenage girl over the piano.
So it was
And
well
so
thought out.
the talents of the congregation, if again we were to do this in the future, somebody's talent is going to be appreciated in one capacity or other, and it's just, what do they say, the giver gets. We as givers got as much, hopefully not quite as much, but as the kids did. So it's worth doing and worth being a part of and worth considering.